All right, welcome back to the Reverse Mush Podcast. Harry Mack here, as always, and I'm joined by a very special guest this week, XMMA matchmaker Jordan Dykler. Jordan, thank you for hopping on, man. Thank you for your time. How we doing, brother?
Doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess we'll jump right into it here. So how did you originally get into MMA? Because I know just from talking to you this past weekend and cutting it up a little bit, I feel like you have the same kind of severe combat sports brain poisoning that I have.
Basically, I had some friends in the sport. They were high level athletes in other sports. They started to introduce me to guys at the gym. They started to train me. They saw what I was doing in my regular life, said, hey, we're not, working super well with our agency. Would you like to help us out? Sponsor wise, find sponsors, basically do agent stuff. I jumped right into that. I love it. I always wanted a career in sports, helping people out. So basically, it was really an organic start. I trained with some guys in the UFC. They were my coaches, training me in jujitsu, training me in striking, and I just fell in love with it. I loved watching the sport, but I didn't realize, on TV when I was watching it at the start, how much dedication, how much hard work, uh, perseverance, luck, the sport really, 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 it takes to get to the top of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think a lot of fans and yeah, you kind of it's very easy to lack that perspective as a fan, as just like a consumer of the sport, but you get a whole different appreciation for it when you're in the gym with these guys and just watching like yeah, like you said, the amount of dedication, the amount of work that these guys put in to get to the level that they're at. I think it's yeah, it's easy to lose that perspective. But so I guess at what point did you realize like okay, like I can make a career out of this? So when did it go from being like oh here's this fun cool thing I'm doing on the side to like all right this is how I'm gonna make a living?
Uh, Really, when XMMA decided to give me the job interview, it was very, it was a chance meeting with the owner. The owner and I really vibed. He liked what I was saying. I guess I beat out a couple people for the position that were maybe a little bit more experienced, but I really have a vision for what we're doing, and I sold him on it, and he looked at me and he said, hey, I I I think exactly what you're saying is what I want to do. So I mean, I'm making a go at it. Let's see.
There you go, there you go, and for whatever it's worth, I think you've done a damn good job so far. I got five
Appreciate it.
very fun shows in the books, but. So, I guess how much MMA would you say that you watch between scouting and then even just like personal for fun? Like, what is your average consumption in a day look like?
About 5 hours
Wow.
of watching. I mean, when there's live events, it's obviously easier. I mean, we spoke last night. I texted you immediately. I saw one of your gym mates on the Contender, and I was like, hey, can we get contact to him? Anything that's available to me, I do watch. Then when I'm presented profiles, I make sure to watch at least 3 fights. I try and watch everything available to me with the guys that are presented to me. Sometimes it's not easy to find stuff regionally or from amateur careers. I find sometimes the UFC is kind of hard to find fights.
Yup.
It's kind of hard to find their library.
Unless you want to buck up for Fight Pass. Yup.
Well, it's I have it, but it's just like I don't know how to use it. It's on my TV, and yeah, I'm not very good with technology. Let's just put it that way. I'm
Yeah,
more of a
yeah. The
communication
UI is not
person.
good by any means.
That's it. So I mean, a lot of the fights that I do end up watching are basically on my phone, or things that guys, the agents, when they're sending me their guys profiles, I ask them, if I can't find this easily, I can't look at your guy. I could look at his tap. I can have an idea of what he's able to do, via the outcomes, but it's really difficult to gauge a guy's compete level just looking at numbers and looking at random fights.
Absolutely. I've always said
Sometimes,
that looking at Tapology, you can tell looking at somebody's Tapology if they are bad. You cannot tell if they are good by looking at Tapology.
well, a lot of the time, you're looking at a guy and you're looking at his losses and you're looking at his wins and you're perplexed. So you want to see, you want a little bit more background of what's going on in the guy's career at the moment. Tapology won't give you that.
Right.
So sometimes the agent won't give you that. I mean, I like to speak to the coaches in the gym. I like to get an idea of who's there, who's present, who's helping out their teammates, who's a basically the reality of the sport. I don't like to reward guys that are halfway. It's very difficult for me. I obviously don't know until the moment comes when it's showtime and you see when a guy's prepared or not. But the tape usually doesn't lie.
Right. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's you can't strip context away from the tape. You can strip context away from numbers on a website or on a piece of paper.
Well, like, you get a lot of guys like, that will comment about other, a guy's record being padded and then, like can crusher, this, that, whatever. And I find it, funny because a lot of these guys never have the opportunity to do anything more than that. So then when
Right.
they're presented the opportunity, then it becomes, oh, he's not a can crusher, but that guy that he just beat is now a can. And it's like,
Right. Everyone
it's
wants to
never
have
good.
it both ways.
It's never good enough on the internet. I find it like I try not to read too much. I mean, I'm new in this, so I've gotten only pretty much positive comments about my job, but I can imagine that when it doesn't go right, I'll hear about it.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, MMA fans can certainly be a ruthless bunch on Twitter and Instagram and online in general. But yeah, I think that's the right way to look at it at the end of the day. But so, do you
Yeah.
do you only watch MMA, or you dabble in some other combat sports too?
I like them all. I mean, I'm not really into the combat jits or the combat karate. I'll watch boxing. I mean, I find boxing really complicated. To know who's the real deal.
Right.
They'll spend years building a guy up in boxing, and then it's the pivotal moment, and it's either they deliver or wow, just another hope. And
Right.
you know, they do 3 round fights and they do 5 round fights, then it's 6 round fights, 8 round fights, 10 round fights before they actually get to the point where they're on the pay-per-views or these
Right.
big ESPN cards,
And there's
Showtime
and there's
cards.
20 belts in every division. Like
Yes,
it's all
and
very
there's four
convoluted.
sanctioning bodies, and so it becomes really confusing. The technical aspects I love. I love boxing. I just like I said, I wish that it was a clear picture. More like the MMA landscape where the UFC. Most people believe that the best fighters are there.
Right.
I don't agree in some senses. We've seen in the past when UFC how the Strikeforce invasion impacted the sport, impacted UFC, all those champions that came. I can remember a time where I'd watch Strikeforce on Friday nights, and my friends would be like, "Why are you watching this minor league MMA?" And I'd be like, "It's the same thing,"
Right.
and they just wouldn't get it. And I'd be like, just because the UFC does this promo where everyone believes that MMA is called UFC,
Right.
um, that's it. It's just humorous to me. Like the education of some fans versus the education of the
For sure.
masses.
For sure. Because yeah, there's great fighters in every semi-major major promotion around the world. There are great fighters, guys who could hang with in the UFC, guys who could compete there. But right, everyone like the
It's a
UFC is the
show.
brand at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's a show too. So people need to they need to take into consideration that the UFC has their own agenda. And sometimes maybe they're signing guys to come in and not get the outcome that they want and put someone over. And I don't think the fans realize how much that happens,
For
how
sure.
they'll basically promote one guy to the extreme, give him so many legs up on a matchup, and basically throw another guy's whole career and body of work under the bus without really even taking a minute to know the guy or to look at the guy in a sense like, hey, maybe if we work with him here, 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 and here, he could be as huge as those other guys just based on merit.
Right. And I feel like a part of that problem is a lot of managers in this sport are content to let that happen. I feel like there's a lot of kind of quid pro quo, like, oh, I'll give you this guy to get smashed in this fight if my other guy can get this good fight. Like it's a lot of
It's
politics.
it's a dirty secret, but I mean, generally, even on the regional level, I mean, you'll have guys looking for picked choice fights, and then you'll have guys looking for a payday relative to the scene,
Right.
But it's difficult, and even regionally, you never know who you're really gonna, get. Is somebody coming in to cash a check, dealing with a lot of stuff, no training, or you're getting a huge compete level, and the guy's hungry to graduate to the next show. You'll never really know. It's very difficult. So, I find that the fights on the regional scene, you get a little bit more surprise generally than the bigger organizations that are doing everything to determine a winner.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. There's just more variables at that level, I
a
guess.
lot, a lot, a lot.
For
You know,
sure. So I've just like I'm personally just fascinated by kind of the trajectory that XMMA has taken in the last couple of years. Because to my understanding, they put on a few shows in Canada a few years ago, right? Kind of folded up for a little bit, and then they relaunched in January 2021. That first Vic Fialo show was absolutely awesome. And so have you been with them since the revamp?
I came on right after XMMA 3, like
Gotcha, gotcha.
right at the tail end. Um, Basically, since then, there's been a lot of changes. We feel like we're getting stronger and stronger. We feel like our brand presence is coming along. All our socials are done organically. We're not looking to pump out socials at nauseum and to make people force people to look at our product. We want people that are looking at our product based on merit. And we're starting to get a lot of attention just based on what we're doing. Some of the comments on the internet make me laugh because what's the X stand for? X UFC. But when we're talking about the top of the sport, the profiles that we want to get basically are going to show you the best of the best that are available to us. And that's what we're trying to do. Where they fought is little, little matter to me. Of course, that those names catch the attention, but there's lots of guys out there that have never made the UFC that have been on our shows that have, submitted the X UFC, knocked out X UFC.
Yeah.
We're really just trying to open eyes to people and to make people understand that the sport is very matchup based. Most of my job, if you look at the fights that we made, the guys are similar at their, maybe not in terms of years being pro, but in terms of cage time, I try and make sure that guys have the same level of experience. That's what it's about for me. And that's where you see upsets and people say, oh, well, he fought at this level, so he must beat this regional guy. Zero about that. It's about ring rust. It's about cage time. It's about eliminating the mistakes from your last performance. People forget that. All the great coaches have told me it's just that. It's being present and it's being able to compete at a regular time frame. If these guys are taking years between their performances, obviously some of them will come back differently than others. Some will be uneven, some will be better, some will be worse. It's just hard to tell. And I like to present that. That's how I like to present our show.
Definitely. And so from your perspective, what not that any outcome is, I guess, necessarily better than another, but would you almost prefer the guy who maybe isn't as big of a name, who didn't fight in the UFC, who's more of a regional staple? Like I'm thinking of this past week, and I'm thinking about like Tanner Saraceno beating Sasha Politnikov, or Linares beating Andre Harrison. You know what I mean?
I just think that those are fun things to see, and it puts people into perspective because everyone looks at the UFC like, oh, if you've never been to the UFC, you can't beat guys in the UFC, and it's just nonsense.
Right. I mean, those guys were
Uh,
both like 3-1 underdogs.
and well, that's it. And I love that you brought that up, and it's just because of the betting public will look at Tapology and make bets instead of looking at the actual fighter, watching their fights, breaking down their skills versus the other fighter's skills. And not to say that I expected either to happen, but I looked at those matchups and said there's a real possibility we're going to get an upset. And look, I mean, the show speaks for itself. If people haven't watched it, they can go look. I mean, Saraceno versus Palatnikov was a fight of the night on any
Awesome
UFC
scrap.
card. I mean, yeah, it was back and forth, and it was an endurance thing at the end of the day. And Tanner's got a tank for days. He's got a chin for days. If you look at all his losses previously, I mean, it's the top of the sport. He's only lost at the top of the sport, and he's also never fully committed to the sport. People don't realize that there's outside factors. Putting money
Right.
in your pocket. Regional MMA isn't going to pay
Yeah,
your
most of
bills.
these guys have day jobs, right?
That's right, and into different levels of in their profession. Some are bosses at their job where they can't just fuck off or take off for the day, to go train. Their real world commitments supersede their training commitments, and sometimes you people don't realize that.
Right.
It's just
Definitely.
hard. It's nothing that's spoken about. It's not like the guys that do their little UFC or Bellator videos are saying, yeah, I work at Costco 5 days a week and I train, or I'm working UPS, or I'm working, I'm a day trader, I'm an energy trader, whatever. At the end of the day, nobody owes anybody an explanation, and nobody's asking for one. So it's tough to gauge. It's tough.
Definitely, definitely. And so from your perspective, when you're matching these fights, what I guess how much emphasis goes into like, okay, we need a guy who's got some name value in this spot, or we want a guy who's kind of a rising prospect in this spot. I guess how do you kind of weigh and balance those things against each other?
I try and be really fair. The thing is that people need to accept matchups more than anything. So sometimes I luck into things. I walk into them. I have my ideas, and I'm hoping to make a certain type of fight, and one party won't agree to it, and then I'll present to the party who's being easier, more than likely, another matchup or another opportunity. The guy who said yes or whatever, and you walk into these things. At the end of the day, these guys demand a certain style of matchup. You give them 10 names or 8 names, they come back to you and they say, we want this guy. And you're like, okay, you want that guy, and I let them pick their poison, and it makes for a good fight. A confident guy, and more than likely is going to give you his best performance.
There you go. There you go. And so we briefly touched on the obviously gambling is a huge part of sports in general at this point, definitely in combat sports. I know you guys are partnered with it's a bookmaker.eu, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
so are you guys eventually going to look to bring on an American bookmaker or gaming partner?
They're a partner.
Ah, you're good.
They're a partner. I might get another beep in a second. Sorry. They've been really, really supportive. They've been really, really. Do you hear me? Sorry about that.
Yeah,
They've
you're
been
good.
really supportive of us from day one, and they have big ideas. So sometimes when I am booking the fights, obviously we want to draw name value to our card to make fans, casual fans, look at our sponsor, sign up to our sponsor, and lay action. The reality is that if you're only promoting certain styles prospects, the casual fan not interested in your event. You're not going to get the eyeballs, and you're not going to get the action. But when you put something at the top, like, a very, very known champion, we've had John Dodson at the top of our card. We've had Ben Saunders at the top of our card. We've had James Vick. We've had Will Brooks. It just speaks to these people who know exactly who these guys are. There's a ton of body of work for them to look at and say, yeah, so there's a ton of body of work associated with this guy, and and we can we can work with that. You know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so if you had
Sorry,
to
I keep losing my train of thought because after a show, any problem that comes up, I still have to be present and deal with it. Make sure we're also planning our next show that we really rolled right into. Hopefully,
hell
I'm gonna
yeah.
have an announcement about that soon. It's just a lot of work and a lot of detail oriented work that goes into doing this. So, like I said, I'm very new to Zoom. It's probably the last time I'll do it on my phone because it rings so often.
So, yeah, we were talking about kind of just kind of the finer points and all the details that you're working on here and all the work that goes into putting on one of these shows. So, if you had to key in on, I guess, one factor above all else, what would you say would be the most important factor in just putting on a successful show at this point?
Basically, it's finding the right profiles. Finding the right venue, finding the right place to put a fight on. We've been really happy with our time in South Carolina, but we want to show our product all over the United States. We don't want to be known as a regional promotion for anybody. We don't want to be known as some small type of thing, So anything that we can do to improve our show, technically, because we had some problems in the last one and the last two, we're going to be addressing. And everything is an issue, everything is the most important thing when you're a growing company. So when people are asking, or expecting things to be perfect within our organization, I always say, hey, we're on show 5, we're crawling. Before you walk, you crawl. And I think that by show 10, by show 12, we're really going to have an imprint on the market and within our own, within, doing our own. All that to say, I think the most important thing is having a product that's watchable and extremely fun,
Right.
different.
Right. At the
From
end of the
my
day, if the product sucks, that's
yeah,
that.
from my perspective, when I watch other shows, as I've gotten older, I have less and less tolerance for nonsense. So some of these shows I start at 6 p.m. and I'm watching and they end at almost 2 p.m. on the East Coast. And not to say that I'm not interested, but as a fan sitting in the seats, I'd have a lot of trouble being there. And I've been there in the past. So from our perspective, we really want to make sure our fights roll. We want to make sure that our product never changes, regardless of who we associate with. We don't want to change that. Um, it's just we want to do things a little different.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I was talking to I think our buddy, a mutual friend of ours, the Breeze from the MMA Breeze, and we were talking about it. I mean, you guys crushed the pacing on Saturday night. It's like it's very refreshing to just see like, all right, fight ends, we're right on to the next one. We don't need to fill, we don't need 20 minutes of filler. We don't need all the promos. We don't need all that. Like, introduce the guys, get them out there, get them in the cage. Let's go.
The only thing that I didn't like as far as the broadcast was that we took so long with our promos before the main event. I don't think the crowd liked it either.
Right.
I don't think you'll see that again with us. It was an error. So I mean, obviously, that was the only issue that I had with what we did because, like I said, as I've gotten older, it just developed this ADD. I don't get it. I was always a good student, always quiet, and then now I just can't sit and deal with the nonsense.
Right. Yeah. Technology and phones have just melted all of our brains and yeah, gave us
Yeah,
all goldfish attention spans.
pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess so. So you've been with the promotion since XMMA 3 now. What would you say is the favorite fight that you've matched so far? If you had to pick just one. No, it's like asking you to pick your favorite child. It's a tough one.
Probably John Sweeney and Cole Smith because it was such a different matchup. And like Cole tried to impose what he likes to do on John, and John turned it into this super brawl. Um, like it just became a fight that I never expected. That's why I liked it so much because stylistically, I didn't know where it was going to go. And not to say that I was, like worried or anything like that. It just turned into what I thought it could become. So many fights, you hope for the best and you're like, well, that was kind of underwhelming. And it happens on the biggest stage. And I mean, takes two guys to make a boring fight. But for them to have done what they did, it really, for me, cemented that I was onto something with the stylistic matchups, with the different, just like, hey, this guy's great at this. If he can withstand this, he's going to turn this into this.
Right.
And that's what I was really hoping for the Harrison Linares fight as well. I was hoping that Mikey could withstand the wrestling and then turn it into a real back and forth stand up fight. Obviously, Andre's super 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 good, at positioning and control, and Mikey couldn't really do what he needed to do. I found it interesting that they scored the fight that way. I mean, obviously, the Carolinas usually are very wrestle friendly. Again, I was very surprised at the decision. I didn't really have a winner per se on that one, but
Right.
like I said, it's styles that make fights, and it's my job to make sure that people are entertained.
Yeah, there you go. And I just back to Sweeney for a second. I love watching that guy fight, man. He's got a
He's
little like Lineker light in him, I feel like. He's got
oh
bricks
man,
for hands.
oh man, he's fighting on Saturday, Friday or Saturday this week. I can't wait to watch. I
Right.
cannot. I mean, I cannot wait to watch. He's
He's
such a
with
great.
Combate now, right?
No, he's LFA. He's the
Oh, gotcha,
co-main. He's
gotcha,
the
gotcha.
co-main event this week in LFA. But man, what an entertaining guy! Time for the world to know that he's a star.
There you go. Yeah,
You
Hollywood
know.
Sweeney. That's a
Oh,
good
oh,
bit.
time for the world to know because that's an entertaining, amazing human.
Absolutely. And so what would you say if you could pick a dream fight that you would like to put on? What does that look like for you?
I can take anybody, or I got to take free agents.
Let's hypothetically say anybody.
GSP Kamaru Usman.
Okay.
Yeah, GSP
Put on the
Rahman.
legacy fight.
Anything with GSP. I mean, I guess I'm a homer growing up in Montreal. I grew up watching his fights. I think to me, stylistically, I think that his style would transcend all times in MMA, where a lot of guys have evolved into being fighters like him, where at the time he was one of a kind.
Right, right. He was basically like the first guy who did everything well in an era of kind of specialists and guys like, I mean, the sport has come so far since then. Now everybody can do a little bit of everything, but
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was mixing the martial arts.
And if you look at all those title fights, so many of the game plans were different. They were just so goal oriented and game plan specific that I really don't think that we've seen the same approach. Now I think we see a lot more, raw talent approach. It's like, hey, go, dictate the fight the way you want because you're better than him.
Right.
Whereas GSP was such a tactician that I feel I would love to see the game plan for Usman. I would love to see the game plan for Chimaev. I would love to see the game plan for Rakhmonov. And I don't know if the athletic evolution would catch up to him because now the sport's seeing such high level athletes
Definitely.
because of the purses going up. Whereas in the past, you'd get really tough guys coming onto the scene, but you weren't getting the ultra athletic. They were going out of their sports,
Right.
you know.
For sure. For sure. And so, yeah, I mean, I can personally say that covering Southern Heat this past weekend down there in South Carolina really was probably the most fun I have ever had covering an MMA event live. And I guess I just wanted to ask, and on top of that, probably some of the best content I've gotten too. Just as far as the cage side videos
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But so I guess I just wanted to ask, what goes into that decision making process on XMMA's side to kind of let media have this almost unprecedented level of access, you know what I mean? And kind of just let guys do their thing and get good content and promote it in the way that they want to.
Well, we believe that the future of fighting is all free. The content of fighting should be free. The sponsors and YouTube and everything else should cover the costs. The reality is that why we give access is because we want people to know our product, and we want people like you, the other coaches that come to see the corners, to go back to their local gyms and to go within their communities of press, Reddit, everywhere, and just say that these guys are doing it different. And if you want to see a new, fresh idea and fresh thought process, well, then go check out their event. It's free. There's no harm in seeing something for free. And I also believe that there's so many limitations for fighters right now within earning that while we don't pay perfectly yet, we're coming. We pay very, very well for a regional promotion that's growing. As our revenue goes, grows, we're going to be more than happy to share that and to grow with our business and with our fighters. A lot of companies are just not interested in anything but a bottom line. We're here to stay in the right way.
Right, absolutely. And I mean
You know,
that segues perfectly into something I wanted to ask you about. I had a coach from the event tell me a little source. I won't air him out publicly, but Tom Lane has his opponent pull out on Tuesday. Promotion reaches out to him, tells him, "Hey man, you want to come on down to the fight Saturday night? Come out here, hang out. We'll pay you your show money." And I mean that is especially at this level. I mean, it's unheard of in the big promotions. It's unheard of almost anywhere. But at this level, to take care of guys like that is really just not something you see. So it's very refreshing to see a
active.
promotion putting
Uh,
fighters first.
yeah, from my perspective, that needs to happen. If the scene's going to open their arms for us and welcome us as a new promotion after 5 events, and you saw the level of corner and the level of talent that was just at the event supporting their fighters and their teammates, it speaks to what we're trying to do. And being fighter friendly is easy. Making sure that somebody gets what they're expecting after 3 months of training or 6 weeks of training when they've had other opportunities regionally and other promotions that they've shut down, because we've promised them and made them a fight. There's absolutely no way that we're not going to pay. It's just morally wrong.
There you go. Well, I have a lot of respect for that, and I wish more people in this business shared that view.
Oh, well, the owner of the company really believes in making sure that people are taken care of, and finances are a huge part of this. The costs associated with training camps are enormous. Most of these guys don't break even, and they end up paying out of their pocket to get their corners there, to get their training done, to eat properly, to sleep properly. It's a small amount of money to make sure that somebody is taken care of.
There you go. There you go. Well, hopefully that trend catches on. So when are we gonna see XMMA in the Northeast? Speaking of kind of wanting to do shows all over the country, up here we're hungry for violence always. Small
Um,
regional scene.
we're cooking up something pretty big for 2023. We're hoping to have our next event announced by the end of this week. So then we're going to hopefully announce two more for early 2023. And then we're going to announce the rest of our schedule for the year. But you can pretty surely expect something in the Northeast region in not too long.
Hell yeah, I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Uh,
Us too.
yeah, it's no shortage of talent out here, no shortage of fight fans out here. It's what the people want.
Well, we want to shine a light on all those regional talented guys that haven't got the opportunity while still doing the same thing. I mean, I have a template that I like to run on my cards. So it's generally, 6 marquee matchups with guys that have been in the bigger shows or, have like very, very close opportunities to those bigger shows or, the regional legend type guys
Right,
that
right.
never got the shot and everybody's kind of like, yo, this guy, he should have got a shot. Um, we like those big matchups. And then the big show, whether they're, 1-2 fights away, but very, very, very close, that I can match up with a legend of the sport or a guy that's recently been cast away from one of the bigger promotions. And then I like to promote the young prospects. That's my favorite. So shining light on young guys that nobody really knows about. Nobody, really has any footage on.
Right.
Just being part of the beginnings. Just being part of the beginnings, So we're trying to do a few different types of things and see what fits in where. But mostly anytime we're in a state, we're going to try and feature regional guys. We're going to try and give those regional guys that aren't getting the looks for the contender or haven't got a look on the bigger shows that first real taste at a very high level quality opponent.
There you go. And so is there any sense of it almost being like bittersweet for you in a way when like one of those prospect type guys kind of graduates to one of the bigger shows? Like the guy that comes to mind for me, it would be like Adley Edwards. After he came out, put on a tremendous performance for you guys, and then less than 2 weeks later, he's in the cage with Aaron Pico.
It happened a few times on the last show, but that's actually where I take most of my professional pride. To be truthful, that somebody's looking at our work and saying, damn, I want that guy, and I'm going to do anything to get that guy onto my show. That's a
Right.
compliment to my. That's a compliment to me.
Definitely got to be doing
You
something
know,
right.
that's right. It's like if after every show we lose 3 to 5 guys to get paid at a major in a major promotion, I'm good with that. Like I said, if 3 guys or 5 guys are getting a contract, that means 3 or 5 guys are probably getting released, right? So let's keep this a transient place where people can come up and down, get a fair fight. People can remember their name. You can get a good betting line on them
There you
at
go.
Bookmaker, and hopefully we can keep the upsets rolling so your fans and our fans keep tuning in.
Yeah, there you go. And so I guess does the eventual progression of XMMA just like are there going to be title fights down the line somewhere? Or do we feel like we're going to add like a women's divisions eventually? Maybe I feel like there's so much
Mm,
room for growth.
I think you'll see title fights before a women fight. That's my perspective. Obviously, I love both. I'm open to both, but it takes the right profiles. And if I'm gonna make a title fight, it's only gonna be with guys that have already given us their blood, their sweat, and their tears in our ring.
Right. Like I
So I'm
remember
not gonna.
Wozniak was talking about it before
That's
PFL
right.
signed him. Like,
I'd really like to promote guys that have already done it for us, then and actually have a rhyme and reason to our show, than bringing in guys as opponents. So it's like,
the old
hey,
the
we're
old
gonna
hired gun.
why it's very difficult for me to understand what some of these promotions do title wise, why they promote title fights if they're not going to be 5 rounds. I want to make sure that when I have a champion and we crown our champion, he's tough to beat, and that nobody's going to come telling, I don't want to fight that guy, this, that, whatever. I want people to come look at this as a legitimate place with a legitimate champion. And, sometimes regionally it's not easy, but I
Yeah,
have some
for
plans.
sure.
And I'm not sure about next show, but I think and maybe next show, but I think at XMMA 7 we're going to be introducing a format with titles.
Beautiful. I look forward to it. Well, all right, man. I'm just looking over my notes here, and I think I have taken plenty of your time. I think we've hit on just about everything I had to hit on. So I really
I'm
appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you coming out. Anything you want to plug before we let you go?
XMMA.tv on Instagram, XMMA on YouTube. Please give us a like and follow. We're free. There's no reason for you not to check us out. I want to thank Headrush Bookmaker for being super supportive of us through everything, bringing these quality fights to you for free, carrying the load, trying to make MMA a better place, trying to find fights for guys that people tend to forget about sometimes. I'm sure that you've had tons of fighters on, or you've spoken in private to tons of fighters that will express to you how difficult it is after a certain point for them to book. And
Absolutely.
I take it as a challenge when a guy says, "Oh, well, I can't get booked," or "Oh, you won't be able to find an opponent." That's my challenge. That's where I want to promote. That's where I want to. I want to get the guys that deserve it, deserve another look, deserve another shot. So
Yeah.
shout out to them.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, I very much appreciate your time. Make sure you
Yeah.
give XMMA a follow on Instagram, on Twitter, all the socials, on YouTube.
If there's any fighter or gym or coach looking for a fight, Jordan at xmma.com, feel free. I look at every email and I try and answer every email. Really, really want to get the best profiles and really want to make the best shows possible. Again, obviously you're going to have to be sanctioned by the state. So I don't want any, 16-year-old
You
kids
won't make
asking
me
me.
a fight.
You would be surprised. Yeah, well, you would be very surprised at the emails I get and what people think that they are capable of doing without an amateur career or any expertise in any combat sports. So let's just leave it at that. Or, how many, 14, 15, and 16-year-old kids are eager to get into the XMMA cave. I, I find it interesting, but immoral and illegal. So probably not going to happen.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, man.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate you. And yes, we will definitely have to do it again sometime.
Yeah. Anytime. I'm always free for you guys. And we really appreciate the support and you guys coming out to the event. And hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Perfect.
Be good, brother.
Yeah, man. You too. Have a great night.
You too.